Come on, get them shackles off him. Poor son can't eat proper.
Dunno, I'm not sure I like that. What if he runs for it? He's worth a heap of coin.
Ah, bollocks. Been holding him a week, hasn't tried a thing. Why he up and bolt now? Matter of fact, got to thinking. What did a sweet, gentle chap like him do to get the Queen of Zericania so riled?
She's a shrew, that's what. Queen and witch in one. Worst of both worlds.
Enough about her. What do you say to one more of your tales? While we toss down some cards.
Ah, why not? And since you mentioned one queen... The year 1267. War hung in the air, its scent palpable. The mighty empire of Nilfgaard stood poised, greedily eyeing the northern realms just across the Yaruga. In light of the threat, the realm's sovereigns met in summit. They made declarations, pledged fraternal assistance, forged alliances, and then, in good spirits, dispersed. Among them, Meve, queen of the twin realms Lyrie and Rivie. Know the name? Heard her beauty extolled? Justly so. Remarkable she was. Not for her graceful exterior, but for her persistence and courage. Where was I? As the queen and her retinue neared her capital, Count Caldwell appeared. In Meve's absence, the Count was to have helped her son, the youthful Prince Willem, run the Twin Kingdoms. Caldwell had clearly ridden hard. Drops of perspiration dangled from his whiskers, his neck red and chafed from a ruff, starched stiff.
Hail, Your Majesty! Delighted to see you in good health. The summit, it ended fruitfully, I hope?
Yes, at its end letters were exchanged, documents signed. Paper. Time will tell of what value. That will suffice as cordialities go, Caldwell. Tell me what's happened, for I sincerely doubt sheer longing prompted you to ride out.
Indeed, Your Grace. Another circumstance inspired me to do so. The strays of Spala, the bandits, I was to tend to during Your Grace's absence. The situation's gotten out of hand, I fear.
Steady, Caldwell. Come now. Deep breath. All right, speak. What has happened? Be precise.
As Your Grace ordained, I set out and was nipping at the bandits' tails for long. We pursued for weeks, until scouts returned, having sighted the strays' camp in the forest near Locheren. We waited for nightfall to surprise them as they slept. Alas, it proved a ruse. We found the tents empty. Straw-stuffed dummies round the fire. Soon, we learned that as we waited for the sunset, the strays had snuck away, rounded our positions and ridden to Hawksburn.
Beg your pardon, my lord. The tax collectors. That is where they station.
So the gold? All of it?
It's stolen, Your Grace, but I shall do all in my power to recover it. This I vow, if it be Your Grace's wish.
After weeks in the saddle, Your Grace's wishes are modest. A hot bath and a night's sleep in her own bed. Yet, they shall have to wait. I must look personally to this matter. Your force, Caldwell, I will now command. You... send a herald to Hawksburn. They must prepare for the Queen's arrival. Air the rooms, dust off the porcelain. Make certain they do it. Do you see now, Reynard? I believe I foretold it would be thus. My son wasn't ready in the least to rule an entire country.
I confess, Prince Willem has much to learn yet.
Yes. And very little time.
Count Caldwell rode at the column's head, scanning its flanks with a wary eye that, despite his advanced age, proved very sharp indeed.
Your Majesty! Bandits! There! At the tree line!
The Count's footmen, unaccustomed to escorting their queen, sought to shield her with their bodies and assumed a tight formation to do so. They were promptly knocked aside as Meve charged headlong at the bandits, brandishing her blade and bellowing a ferocious cry.
Attack! Charge!
Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
To attack the Queen? An outrage!
Your Grace, the men await. You must lead to begin the attack.
This harvest.
Salt of the earth they are, Your Grace. They'd follow you into fire. You need simply say the word.
I shall teach you to respect the crown, you dogs!
The chase is on!
Keep calm, Tiberius. The strays took tail and run!
Bigger they are.
Look out! Seek cover! We are bombarded!
One vote's all I need.
Yes! Our victory is assured! Sound the horns! May they sing praises of this triumph for ages!
The battle's not yet done. It is better to conserve our strength, prepare for a strike that will prove decisive. Battle formation! Protect the Queen!
There's a time to reap, a time to sow, and a time to die.
Thing about slings, they hide well.
Give me a target. Arbalist to your command.
I congratulate you on your latest victory, Your Grace. The bandits stood not a chance.
Matters seem indeed to have gotten out of hand, to put it mildly.
Meve said, arms crossed atop her shining breastplate.
They've grown bold. Doubtless after the raid on the manor, the tax collectors. I've not heard of an ambush on the high road afore.
Caldwell explained, avoiding his liege's wrathful gaze.
Enough, Caldwell. We must put things right. Come!
The Queen's retinue set out, cavalry in front, infantry and arbalists close behind, and, following in the rear, the bandits, bound in chains.
I do adore this prospect.
Yes. Lyrie, the Pearl of the North. With its hills and dales. Why, its beauty matched only by that of its queen.
After 3 weeks in the saddle, I've my doubts, Count. We shall pitch camp here. Our soldiers need respite. A spell of it they deserve.
Gods of mercy! Whatever is this filth?
Necrophages. Drawn here by blood's scent.
For such vile monstrosities to prowl the high roads of my realm. I won't allow it! Attack!
Flogging broad daylight, with the heat positively sweltering. Have we to do with some manner of sorcery?
We shouldn't exclude the possibility, my lord. And great caution we must exercise.
Reynard, what is this? Some spectre? A strigger?
I can't be sure, your grace. It's the first I've seen of any such... thing.
This harvest, we'll be reaping black-clad heads.
These carrion eaters. I know them. Appeared on my estate last spring, enticed by the corpses of those of my sheep that fell. Harmless at first, until, that is, they fill their guts. Seemed to become quite powerful then.
Fearsome they look, true. But they bleed just as we do. Onward! Slay the filth!
Lyrie!
The beasts hadn't a chance against us. Victory is ours.
Lady, the masks they wear. Have you seen them? They've fangs, snouts, horns. Like a right proper nightmare. Your Majesty, I beg of you, thrash them bandits, please. Scared to step out into me own fields, I am.
Soon, Queen and retinue arrived at Hawksburn. The men stationed there they found standing at attention, baking under the blistering noonday sun.
Your Majesty, Count Caldwell.
Stand at ease, Sergeant, and report.
The local peasants we've rounded up in the yard, Your Grace. Expect they might have lent the bandits aid. Yet our courtesy hadn't inspired them. They haven't peeped a word. Might it please Your Grace to summon the hangman? He ties a noose for them, should have them jabbering right quick.
I'll speak to them first.
Your Majesty, for the Queen to question commoners, why, it's simply not proper.
Whom for? I shan't be stripped of crown and titles for it, so no impediment do I see. Lead me to them.
Bow low for your sovereign, Her Majesty, Queen Meve of Lyrie and Rivie.
Ha' mercy, Your Grace. We bear no guilt, we simple folk.
Calm your hearts, good folk. Though your queen I may be, you are subjects, not slaves.
Meve extended a hand, the royal ring gleaming upon it. Unfamiliar with protocol, a pleb gripped it firmly and gave it a shake as hearty as a good scrub in the tub.
My, we shall be addressing one another by name afore long.
This is an outrage! Guards! Grab him!
I've all in hand, Caldwell.
Forgive me, Your Grace. I'm not accustomed, nohow.
Nonsense. You've a firm grip, a spry handshake, and a bold spirit I can respect. What do they call you, man?
Helmer, son of Florence.
Delighted, Helmer. Now understand me, man. I am in dire straits and in need of your aid, so please answer my queries in full and forthrightly. The bandits, whom do they follow?
Him, my lady. We seen him. No name, just an odd title. The Duke of Dogs, they call him.
My, a blue-blood thoroughbred mutt. Where are he and his hounds bound? Did he say?
That recall, Imogen? What did he name? A Gleeton or something?
Clayton. Lord Clayton. His estate lies to the south.
Sound the horns. Have the men form up. We march at once.
Milady, I'll be no higher for the Duke. He's a good man. Gave us proper brass for the welcome we gave him. Shared what grub he had.
Shut it, louts. The Queen's had her say. Your Grace, your orders. What are we to do with them?
Leave them be. The harvest draws close. Hard work. They'll have their hands full.
Oh, milady, thanks be to you, thanks be. I pray Mother Melitele watch over your kind heart.
Pray she watches over yours. Should I hear of you sheltering bandits again, Of you lying to my officers, I shall return and put torch to every hut, field and orchard. Understood?
Meve set off toward Lord Clayton's estate at a gallop, her mount knocking the peasants aside as it kicked up a cloud of dust. The folk of Hawksburn spoke of the royal visit long after, albeit ever behind closed doors and in hushed tones. A peasant cart, loaded with a heap of hay, came rattling down the road from the opposite direction.
Clear the road!
Bellowed Count Caldwell, standing in his stirrups.
Make way for your queen!
The peasants obediently turned their cart into the roadside nettles. As she passed, Meve glanced towards it and froze. Atop the hay bale lay a badly wounded man gripped by fever. The thick, sweet stench of rot wafted from his bandaged legs.
Gods. Who did this to him?
Meve asked.
Bandits?
Nay, milady,
replied the cartman.
'Twere a beast. Out to the east, down Wetterton way, lies a boneyard, old as the elves, they say.
The peasant continued.
Clayton was setting snares round about there. Came running back to us, drenched in blood, rattling on about a long-haired wench come climbing out a grave. We've taken him to the good sisters of Melitele here on bridge. Perhaps they can help him.
I'm certain they can. And will.
Replied the Queen. Though just looking at the wounded wretch, she knew he'd expire before nightfall.
God speed you on your journey.
The Queen whistled, and her mare resumed its trot.
Shall I send for a witcher, your grace?
Caldwell asked.
One of those freaks should make short work of the monster.
Until we apprehend the bandits, I shan't allow a single soul to leave our company. Even on such an important mission as finding a witcher.
Meve replied.
Any who did would be captured at once. But, if fate brings us near Wetterton, perhaps we'll see to this monstrous harridan ourselves.
Your grace, we've only just fought beasts and scarcely escaped with our lives. This she-beast will take a silver sword. Magic formulae.
Yet a dozen arbalists will have to suffice.
The Queen said, calmly but firmly.
And please, Caldwell, do stiffen your spine a bit. Now onward.
Off to Wetterton, are ye? Bonnie tune that. Just the folk are beyond shite. Off to Wetterton, are ye? Bonnie tune that. Just the folk are beyond shite.
As they neared Wetterton, the Queen ordered her company to halt. She then sent men to the town for supplies. Those sent returned more quickly than she'd assumed they would, their satchels empty, their mounts foaming at the mouth.
Your Majesty, the townsfolk have gone right mad. Herded all the elves and dwarves at Market Square. 'Tis a slaughter.
The Queen knew well that if she failed to intervene, the town's streets would flow with non-human blood. Just as she knew her meager force might not subdue an enraged crowd.
What is your command, your grace?
Reynard's question pierced the silence.
What can it be, dear friend?
Answered the Queen, then spurred her mount and rode off towards the town. Her troops followed, running as fast as their legs would carry them. When they passed inside the town gate, they saw corpses lining the gutters. Meve realized she had arrived too late to prevent a tragedy. The crowd was drunk on blood. Its rage would need to be quelled with an iron fist.
Step away, or see your heads bounce down the cobblestones! Reynard, who started this? I must know. So much hatred. We must put a stop to it.
Company! We must strike the largest clusters! Disperse the mob!
Got any victuals? Hungry like a wolf, I am.
Company! We must strike the largest clusters! Disperse the mob!
God save us! There's killing everyone! Run for your lives!
Happily, Meve restored order without suffering any losses. Reynard then learned that a nobleman's ire had triggered the violence, ire at having discovered a theft.
Suspicion fell on the non-humans he employed.
He accused them, they protested, and the row soon engulfed the town. But there's something else, your grace.
Reynard gestured towards an aged man who stood grieving, his face in his hands.
I've witnesses who claim the strays of Spala are the thieves.
Though the tragedy seemed the result of a misunderstanding, justice would have to be served. Those responsible for the slaughter would need to be punished. The question was, how severely?
You are guilty. That can't be denied,
said the Queen, turning towards the bloody rioting's instigators.
A false rumour you took, and turned into a cruel lynch. Thus punishment is your lot. A public lashing, fines, imprisonment. But you shall keep your lives, for enough blood has been spilt here this day.
Wetterton's inhabitants breathed a sigh of relief. But the non-human survivors took offense at the lenient sentence. Soon after, the Lyrian army's elves and dwarves quietly disappeared, deserted. Few doubted the reason. They would not risk their necks for a queen who held their lives in such low regard. The Lyrians entered the graveyard. Crickets chirped in its tall, windswept grass, and lush green moss covered its crumbling gravestones. Only a fresh bloodstain upon a mausoleum wall suggested that something disturbed the dead in their rest and hunted the living.
Save your tears, throw off your grief.
An eerie voice sang, its ghastly lament standing Meve's hair on end.
Soon your life too shall cease, as you pass into the eternal glow.
A pockmarked, pustule-ridden creature crawled out from behind some gravestones. It vaguely resembled a shriveled, hunchbacked hag, until its head split into two halves, forming a tooth-spiked maw.
Attack! Everyone!
Lyrie! Keep calm, Tiberius.
Give me a time.
What was that filth?
The Queen croaked hoarsely as the dying monster writhed in agony at her feet.
I know not, your grace,
replied Reynard.
But to be safe, I would have the corpse chopped up and burned. Elsewise, we will not be certain it shall not return.
Yes, have it done,
Meve said, brushing her hair from her beaded brow.
But quickly, lest dusk catch us in this foul place.
The Lyrians soon resumed their march. As they left the cemetery behind them, some believed they still heard the haunting dirge upon the air. Or was it just the wind, whistling past mossy tombstones?
You spy that column of smoke? Gods damn it! Make haste!
As the Clayton estate appeared from behind a tree line, the Queen and all in her retinue knew at once they had arrived too late. A veritable swarm of bandits milled about the yard.
Who have we here? I'll take a gander, lads. The Queen herself has deigned to come and see us.
See you, then kill you.
The strays of Spala? 'Tis you who lead them. 'Tis you they call the Duke of Dogs.
Aye, 'tis I they dub so. And in other pleasant ways. Prince of Pariahs, Thane of Thieves, Baron of Brigands, and Marquess of Mendacity.
Colourful titles all, yet you omit one. Common cutthroat!
I beg your pardon and cry foul. I am anything but common.
You needn't get excited, Caldwell. Where is Lord Clayton?
Sadly, my lord's no longer with us. Turned us away, you see. Denied us hospitality.
A sacred rite, after all. Angered the gods mightily, I expect, as he promptly met a tragic end. Fell in the well and broke his neck.
I've heard enough. To arms! Attack!
Oh, lads! What say we throw this queen a ball?
Ow! I'm coming, I'm coming.
I smell it.
Stand back! 'Tis some alchemical concoction!
Armor wars, sir.
You mad? Don't shake that!
Aye.
No time for that!
Well, well, my congratulations.
Go, hop, hop!
Should have listened to me, old lady.
We got a job to do.
This harvest will be reaping black-clad heads.
Yeah, yeah!
Army's a waste of time for one like me.
Bravo, Your Grace. Well played.
I can't say the same for you, I fear. You'd have done better to die in battle. Bound for Lyrie now, where the hangman will have his way with you.
Splendid! I've ever wished to see the capital.
Quite certain of yourself, you seem.
Many afore you have braided nooses for me, Your Grace. Yet as you see, my neck's straight as a pike.
My threats are never hollow. And if it's an escape you weigh, well, we've yet to see any man abscond from the dungeons of Lyrie Castle.
I'd hope so. For to be known as second just wouldn't be worth the trouble.
Ugh. Take him away.
As soldiers placed the Duke of Dogs in shackles, there was a sudden commotion. A messenger rushed in, sweaty, gasping for air, smelling of smoke and blood. His gaze spoke terror.
Your Majesty, Graces, Nilfgaard's crossed the Yaruga. Black-clad hordes. Villages burn. Folk lie murdered.
Nilfgaard! Gods help us!
They march for Dravograd. Prince Willem, he can't hope to arrive in time with aid. Help us. You must.
Dravograd. Blast it all. Listen close, soldier. You're to take a fresh mount, ride hard back to your commander and say the Queen comes to repel the foe.
Your Grace, begging your pardon, our force. We aren't many. Let's send for reinforcements first, elsewise...
Reynard, I've seen Nilfgaard's trebuchets at work. Should we delay until we're stronger, they'll leave no stone standing in Dravograd. We must ride for the town at once.
As her men prepared to march, Meve climbed the manor's tower. Smoke rose in columns in the distance. As more black pillars appeared one after the other, she knew they meant another home, another barn, another mill was in flames. Tears welled in her eyes, yet they were tears of anger.
Bastards. If it's war they seek, it's war I shall bring them. Reynard, prepare to ride!
First bandits, now this. Misfortune does indeed come knocking twice.
In hobnail boots, tramping upon my land. Nilfgaard shall regret this. I swear on all that is sacred and blessed.
Suddenly, Meve's force found itself marching straight towards a Nilfgaardian company. To the Queen's surprise, the invaders did not immediately assume battle formation. They proceeded instead in her very direction without a sign of panic. The man leading the Nilfgaardians was clad in rich robes. He exuded pride and the scent of musk.
I am Trahaern var Vdifir, Your Majesty. I was asked to present your esteemed grace the ultimatum of the forces of the Empire of Nilfgaard.
The envoy cracked the seal on a scroll, unfurled it, took a deep breath, and began to read.
I, General Ardal Ebdahi, demand the immediate and unconditional surrender of Lyria and Rivie. Elsewise, I will burn down every city, town, village, and temple, place all your subjects in chains, and your armed men, defeated and captured, I will hang along the roadsides as a warning to all others in the barbarous north.
As the final threat echoed in Meve's ears, the envoy put away the scroll and stood waiting for her answer, a mocking smile on his face. He allowed himself this insolence, believing the immunity accorded diplomats would shield him from any form of royal ire.
His Excellency speaks true. We Nordlings are barbarians, without exception,
answered the Queen. Though her voice was calm, most of those listening shuddered inside.
We neither hold nor honor the standards of the civilized world. Among them, the immunity of envoys. At the...
This is savagery! Barbarous! No attack on emissary!
An army's a waste of time for one like me.
Oh, Lyrian lummoxes.
Armor wars.
The envoy's escort crumbled beneath the onslaught of Meve's Lyrians, who grabbed the emissary and brought him before their queen. Robes torn and head blooded, he no longer exuded imperial pride.
Your Grace, what would you have us do with this pompous arse?
I want him shackled in iron collar and manacles. To the capital we shall take him, and in the castle dungeon he shall taste of northern hospitality.
The envoy's jaw opened, but no sound, no protest came forth. The Queen's irate stare drilling into him, he simply swallowed audibly. Trahaern var Vdifir, usually silver-tongued, remained utterly silent the rest of the way to the capital. Then one day, gazing towards the horizon, the Queen spotted Lyrian banners whipping about in the wind.
At long last,
she said with a smile. Meve resolved to speak with the commander, one Baronet Eldar. It was the first time they met, and the youth very much impressed her. Yet instead of questioning Eldar about the foe's troop movements, Reynard took the conversation down a seemingly irrelevant path.
And how's your father, if I may ask? In good health, I hope?
Yes, though he still nurses that bump he suffered while hunting last winter. Yet he's not one to complain. I'll tell him you asked.
Irritated at the trivial nature of the conversation, Meve gave her horse a dose of her reins and cantered off. Once Eldar and his men were safely behind them, she took Reynard aside.
Reynard, this is no time for gossip and pleasantries. We are at war.
Yes, Your Majesty. And in such times, little should be taken at face value. Even a man's name.
Get to the point, Reynard.
Eldar's father died a month past. His son, I venture, should have known as much.
But that means... Oh, the bastard. Impeccable accent, though.
I fear he's rather representative of what we face. Nilfgaardian spies are ever well prepared.
Tell me, how did you know?
He wears no mourning on his armor. Were it not for that, I dare say I might never have guessed. What are your orders, Your Grace? To observe these Nilfgaardian mummers?
Assemble a force. Tell them to follow our new allies. Observe them closely.
As you wish, Your Grace.
Reynard's scouts did as ordered, watching the false Lyrians while themselves remaining unseen. Soon after, a scout returned with news that the false Lyrians seemed headed for Rastburg, a castle several leagues to the north. The false Lyrians approached Rastburg Castle. They sought to convince the defenders to open the gate. As their commanders negotiated with the commander on the ramparts, the remaining infiltrators crouched hidden behind a wall, awaiting the signal to rush forth.
Time for Baronet Elder to join his falsely claimed father,
muttered the Queen.
Follow me!
They found us!
There he gloire!
Again and again and again.
Quiet, or the Commissar will hear.
This harvest will be reaping black-clad heads.
The Nilfgaardians found themselves in a clinch. As boiling oil and tar rained down on them from the walls, they attempted to retreat. Yet Meve's halberdiers cut off their path, and at the fight's end, Meve was victorious. The garrison commander now knelt by the body of the purported Baronet Eldar, in truth a Nilfgaardian spy. He shook his head in disbelief.
He addressed me by name. Knew our watchwords. Why, if you hadn't come along, Your Grace, I fear even to think on it.
Let this be a lesson, then. Trust no one, not a living soul.
Though victory was theirs, the Lyrians left Rastburg in mightily low spirits. They now knew well that Nilfgaard's spies were no less a threat than its heavy cavalry, than its war machines that spit fire.
What the devil is going on? Where are our reinforcements? Why does Willem not ride out to face the foe, relieve besieged towns?
Meve's retinue was riding through a narrow gully when a shrill cry cut the air.
En van den order!
The gully came alive, and soldiers in black armor rushed forth. A cry in turn went up and down Meve's ranks. Ambush!
Defensive formation!
Scrubbing duty again? Oh, gods.
Ah, Should have listened to me, old lady.
New orders? No?
This harvest, we'll be reaping black-clad heads.
Hey, gloire!
Army's a waste of time for one like me.
Trouver ni gloire!
My spirit's willing and how, but these damn things are killing me.
Egreto dum anime est, spes est.
Brach! Scheiß! In Trey!
I want them taken alive! I need answers!
After the skirmish, the Queen's troops brought several Nilfgaardian prisoners before her. Reynard, who had the best command of their mongrel tongue, interrogated. His first question? How many battalions were marching on Dravograd?
Kes, Zagdran, ep Dravograd, ven.
The prisoners whispered feverishly, then one spoke on their behalf. They would answer no questions until the Queen pledged to free them in return. The Lyrian soldiers saw this as arrogance and said as much.
Conditions they're giving us now? Sons of whores! I say, we find a tree with a strong bough, several.
I know not the custom in Nilfgaard, but here in the north, the vanquished do not make demands.
Meve gazed at the prisoners.
Since you do not wish to speak, you shall remain forever silent. Ready a rope!
That day, Meve demonstrated she would show the invaders no mercy. The Lyrians... Meve and company passed by a village evidently pillaged by the Nilfgaardians. From afar, they had heard cries, but as they drew near, they recognized them not as cries of grief, but as cursing, cries of anger.
Give him a proper walloping, the scoundrel!
Mercy, good folk! I've done nothing wrong!
The villagers stood gathered near the hamlet's center, surrounding an elf, bloodied and cowering. Stones in hand, the peasants threatened and cursed him. The Queen demanded an explanation. A ruddy-faced blacksmith stepped forth and spit.
A Nilfgaardian spy the horse and is, your majesty. He's the one brought him here to raise the village. He's got to hang.
The other villagers agreed with the smith. The elf fell at the Queen's feet and grovelled.
Have mercy, Renner. Save your loyal subject. They lie. They fault me only as I am an elf.
Whence this certainty of his guilt? Have you any proof?
Asked Meve.
Did anyone see him communing with the foe? Did he hold any coin with a foreign stamp?
The villagers eyed Meve angrily, their hands clenched into fists. Yet none dared utter a word in protest.
Know this. The Blackclads need no reason to pillage our homes. Now stand aside and let this wretch go.
The elf tearfully thanked the Queen, then begged her not to leave him behind. Instead, he pleaded vehemently to join her retinue.
Your most noble grace, please, I beg you. As soon as you're gone, the Dwan will hang me from the nearest tree.
So be it,
said the Queen after a moment's consideration.
Find the quartermaster. He's to put you to work. And now we march.
The villagers gazed with hatred as the company left the hamlet. When its thatched roof huts disappeared beyond the next bend, Meve breathed a sigh of relief. A dark shadow suddenly cut across the sky. The Queen instinctively brought her shield up, convinced a Nilfgaardian catapult had lobbed a boulder their way. Yet when the boulder landed in the road ahead, it smashed into splinters and proved an empty barrel.
This is what they cast at us. Barrels. Is this some jest?
Well, they're not known for their sense of humor, the Nilfgaardians.
Answered Meve stood in her stirrups, squinted, peered into the distance, and let out a hearty chortle. For the barrel had been loosed by neither catapult nor trebuchet, but by a rock troll consumed by fury. And what? A company of Nilfgaardian soldiers had pitched camp by the cave the troll called home.
Troll or non-troll?
Said the queen, drawing her sword.
None deserve to die at Nilfgaard's hands. Follow me!
Larum! Essayr to the Avian! For soup!
Protect the troll!
I'm coming, I'm coming.
Life is mine now.
This harvest will be reaping black-clad heads.
Wise choice.
Give me a target.
Like a swine in that jacket.
Humans good do. Soup help.
The Lyrians smashed the Nilfgaardian force. The troll, having grown suddenly pensive, gazed and picked at the invaders' corpses.
Clad in blacks, humans. No good humans.
Just so, Sir Troll. The Nilfgaardians are a devious lot. Our land they've attacked most treacherously.
Clad in blacks, humans hard. Why no good humans? Big lot armor. Shoe got to. Try morsel of human, you wish?
Do you know to whom you speak? This is Her Majesty, your queen.
Greeting, your queen. Soup is me.
There, Reynard. I believe I can manage this. Say, Shoop, you've quite the stockpile of kegs. Do you engage in custom, perhaps?
No. Kegs good for smash when Shoop angry gets. But costume engaging. That what mean?
It means... well, to trade one thing for another. At a profit.
One thing for other. For glitter rocks, even.
Yes, if you play your cards right, you might just convince someone to pay you in rocks.
Cards, kegs, trade, glitter rocks. Soup plan got. Soup gotta go. Afore human go, Soup human give. Your queen aid give, your queen aid get.
The troll turned on his heel and ran out of his cave, his destination known only to himself. As she moved to leave, a hunch told Meve the world would yet hear of this troll named Shoop.
Look at the palisades. The machines of war. Too many to count.
I cannot fathom it. Has Nilfgaard sent all its forces into Lyria?
No, your grace. But a single army.
Gods protect us.
The queen uttered a juicy curse. Dravagrad stood before them, Nilfgaardians all round it. 3, perhaps 4 battalions of armoured infantry. Arbalists and cavalry behind them. Trebuchet volleys had punched holes in the walls, while battering rams had twisted the main gate open. But elsewise, the city was mere moments from falling to the foe.
Doomed! We stand not a chance. Nilfgaard outnumbers us twofold. More!
Then our men must put double the spirit into the fight. Double the heart. Lyria!
Emboldened by their valiant queen and commander, the Lyrians charged headlong at Nilfgaard's lines into a hail of bolts and arrows.
Attack! Rid this city of all black-clad filth!
Your Grace, I see the commander. We must train our efforts on him.
There, Igloire!
Ours is not to reason why.
To thee, Igloire!
Aye.
You can try to win them all, but you won't.
One bolt's all I need.
Give me a time.
Yes. They retreat! Your Majesty, the city's ours!
The Nilfgaardians fled in panic, abandoning war machines, shields and arms, even their wounded. The defenders rejoiced. They laughed boisterously, and cries of delight and chanting could be heard all around. "Warrior Queen," they shouted. "Meve! Meve! Meve!"
Hear that, Your Grace?
I do. No sound rings more lovely to a ruler's ear. Yet rest on our laurels we cannot. Caldwell, the situation in the town, what can you tell me?
Wall breached. Thrice. 400 wounded, near 1,000 without roofs over their heads. All nothing compared to the grain stores. Went up in smoke during the siege. And it's some time yet afore the harvest. Your Grace, the war's just begun, I know. All coins should bolster the army, yet if we leave the folk of Dravograd no gold, there will be hunger, with all the attendant discord.
The drought of 1258 I remember all too well. I saw famine, what it drives folk to do, the extremes. A strong army I need desperately, yet not at all costs. The townsfolk need gold to survive till the harvest. Count how much, then give it to the garrison commander.
As you command, Your Grace?
The battle we've won, there's just the war that remains. And Nilfgaard will strike again, doubt it not. We must move on. Caldwell, ride ahead to Lyria. My son must call a gathering of the Council of Peers. Tell him so. We'll have much to discuss. Reynard and I will follow with the troops. We shall seek out any Nilfgaardian stragglers. Prevent them.
Meve's two adjutants bowed and left the Queen to think. She was hungry, sore from the fight, spent. Yet sensing her soldiers' eyes upon her, she set off for the stable, her gait brisk, her head held high. Horns sounded. Meve recognized them at once as those of the Lyrian vanguard. She drew her sword and prepared to face the invader. Yet coming down upon her force were not Nilfgaardians, but bearded warriors clad in leather, horned helmets on their heads. This was not so. The Queen could not believe her eyes.
Skelligan raiders? This far inland?
But this was no time to be bewildered. Meve spurred her horse. It neighed and reared, and then the twain leapt into the fray.
Skelligan!
Reynard, what the devil? Sea raiders here!
For Rivie!
The gods are with us!
try to win them all, but you won't.
Let us put our steel to the test!
Give me a time.
You must sweat like a swine in that jacket.
The Skelligers fought hard, fought bravely, brought mayhem. Yet the Queen's ordered, disciplined force won the day. The islanders seemed entirely undismayed at their defeat. A trait of theirs, I must admit, I've ever admired.
Well, you're right scrappy for landlubbers. Lippy Goodman applauds you for your pluck, Queen. When we sup, me and the lads will drink your health.
That we shall yet see, sir. We must know something first. What brings you this far inland? What drove you from the sea?
Meve asked, crossing her arms.
Ha! What always drives us? Looting and pillaging. The coast's picked clean since long, so we set our longships up the Yaruga for gold and glory!
Amusing. I always assumed you to be honourable folk.
And who dares to claim elsewise?
Your very actions do so. You've attacked a land preoccupied, a land already at war with invaders. But I suppose it makes sense. You've ever feared to attack Imperials?
The Queen prodded gently.
What did you say, wench?
Goodmund had quickly turned red with rage.
I'll prove just how wrong you are, I will! Why, we'll be drinking mead from Nilfgaardian helmets for sundown! Follow me, lads!
Meve smiled as she watched the islanders gather their gear and prepare to march. She doubted not in the least that Goodmund would honour his pledge.
Here the damage seems not so great.
It appears Nilfgaard's not yet turned its forces towards the capital. We're likely to encounter no more than pathfinders and foragers.
So I hope.
On their way to the capital, Meve and company happened one fine day upon a lone rider. Had I been at her side, I would immediately have recognized his passionate gaze and altogether chivalrous mien.
Identify yourself, sir, and your intent.
Ake of Denel I am dubbed, and my design I never conceal. The good book says the world is a garden which the gods once conferred upon man. And we men have this garden neglected. In consequence, all manner of filth has made its lair here. Drowners, ghouls, and other kobolds. I have sworn ne'er to rest until the day when, with the gods' help, I have rid the world of these beasts and pests. I wander all lands, seeking out evil and facing it in mortal combat.
Who do we spy? A knight-errant?
Just as likely a madman. How goes your hunt? Caught the trail of any monster?
Monster? Too fair a term by far. An exceptionally vile worm has made its lair in nearby caverns. It is said to be the very distillation of filth. A slithering horror. A mélange of the macabre. Its head, that of a wild cat of Ophir. Its maw full of spiked teeth. The wings of a bat it is said to have. The tail of a scorpion, and from it a thick venom drips. Learned men call this variety a manticore, or mardiacore.
Perhaps it will be most prudent, then, to send for a witcher.
A witcher? Soulless automatons they are, all, feeding on common folks' fears. What they demand gold to do, I perform without demand of any coin.
Sir Ake, far be it from me to discourage you. Your endeavour is noble, no doubt. But from what I have heard, manticores are exceedingly dangerous beasts.
To defeat this filth alone could be a difficult task, I'll not deny. Yet try it I must, for it is what I have sworn before the gods.
We shall help you find and fight the Manticore, provided you then pledge to help us fight an even fiercer and filthier beast.
Of course, my lady. Yet what manner of horror is it? A viper? A griffin? A drake of some rare form?
Were it only. 'Tis a beast of 1,000 heads, covered in black armor, its fire consuming whole villages.
Noble lady, I know bestiar is only in parts, yet I've seen some of the world, and never have I heard of such a terror.
You need but look about you, and spot Nilfgaard's legions.
Devastating. But you must forgive me, Your Grace. This struggle between realms is not one to which I can lay a hand.
If such is your view, I shall not insist. The care you show for my folk I greatly appreciate, Sir Ake of Denel. Godspeed.
And to you, Your Majesty.
What's a folk moving about of late?
One evening, soldiers brought before Meve the elf she had saved from a lynching. It seemed he had been the fiend who had poisoned the water barrels from which several soldiers had drunk, then suffered and died.
Yes, I did it. And I regret it not one bit.
Seethed the elf.
Nilfgaardian, Temerian, some brute from Lyria, you Dwan are all alike. I detest you. All of you, your filth for what you wrought with my brethren. I'm proud. I am that even a few of your kind perished at my hand. Hail and Shay.
Meve pursed her lips into a thin white line. Reynard knew the expression. It did not bode well.
I should drag you to the capital. Hang you high in the market square.
Meve said through gritted teeth.
Yet this you would want. Am I right? For your folk to speak of you? For your folk to remember? Well, you shan't have it. You'll hang here, in the middle of nowhere, with but crows to witness it and then pick at your eyes.
It was a summary execution. No sentence was read, no last wish observed. The elf's corpse then hung long at the roadside, as none came forth to claim and bury it.
We welcome you home, Your Majesty. Prince Willem awaits your return, Your Grace.
Home at last, Your Grace.
We shall not enjoy it long, I fear. Soon we must face the black-clads in the field.
Yet a moment's peace we will have. After that drubbing you gave them at Dravigrad, they'll wish to rethink their strategy.
Meve had ridden out of Lyria in early spring, her retinue modest, as none larger was needed for the brief summit of sovereigns. She returned now to her capital, at the head of an army that dragged behind it bandits and Nilfgaardian prisoners in chains. The whole city came out to greet her. Its traders, craftsfolk, priests. Also, her eldest son and heir, Prince Willem. A boy who, it seemed, might never be prepared to rule. Meve and Willem rode side by side past the cheering throngs, their faces frozen in regal smiles. It was not until they reached the castle stables that they found a corner in which to speak freely, candidly.
Welcome home, Mother. Content I am to see you, to be sure.
And I'm happy to see you. Though I dare say I'd have been much happier to witness you leading an army towards Dravigrad. Willem, I trusted you. Left the realm in your care.
Indeed. And I, in turn, did my utmost to choose the best course for...
Willem, don't be so damned courtly. There's no one else here. My son. Nilfgaard has invaded our home. We're at war. When rulers don't strive and don't choose, when rulers grab their swords and shields and ride out to defend their subjects.
You didn't let me finish.
All right. Say what you wanted to, please.
I feared I'd be hasty, Mother, and I didn't want to be. When we got word of the invasion, the lords convened at the castle. They demanded I hear them out. They wanted to give me counsel. If I'd rushed into the field to confront the foe, I'd have been half blind to the situation, not known all the options I had at my disposal.
A ruler never knows all the options. Yet he must decide and act nonetheless. I need to prepare. I'll see you at the Council of Peers.
And indeed she did, when the peers convened in the throne room. Surrounded by animal hides and Zerrikanian tapestries, the lords stood in tense silence, awaiting the queen. When her figure filled the doorway, they fawningly prostrated themselves.
We've myriad matters to resolve, so I trust you're well rested. Whatever the case, I've no doubt we shall meet the dawn afore we're done. Firstly, we must ask assistance. Pen a letter to King Demavend. Scribe, take this down. Dear... What? Uncle? Cousin? Blast. Again. I, Meve, by the god's grace, sovereign of Rivie and...
Your Grace. Mother. The peers and I, we've come to propose another solution.
Yes, out with it.
We wish to acknowledge Nilfgaard's authority, pledge fealty to the Emperor.
I beg your pardon.
The black-clad hordes outnumber our forces manyfold, and they're far better equipped. We stand not the slightest chance against them in open.
You will not lecture me about Nilfgaard's army, my son. All you know of them you garnered from coloured renderings, whereas I faced them at Dravograd. I faced them and crushed them.
But your grace, the losses. For this fleeting victory in which you delight, how many of your subjects had to perish? Bend a knee afore the Emperor, and you shall spare thousands.
Nay, never! Understood, Caldwell? Not ever!
I'd hoped to persuade you, but it seems I've failed. Nonetheless, the die's been cast. We've signed the accord with Nilfgaard. Our noble lords stand with me.
The blood left Meve's face. She had realized her son, who had ever professed to detest politics and shirked his duties as crown prince, had just stabbed her in the back, as had her entire court.
What is this? Treason to my eyes! The gallows is what awaits you!
Willem rules Lyrie now. And should you not acquiesce and approve the accord, I fear only you, milady, shall have the pleasure to meet the hangman.
Don't get ahead of yourself, Caldwell. My mother will not be harmed. Not one hair on her head. Understood? Confine the Queen to the tower.
You err deeply, my son.
The Queen was confined to a cell. Gilded armor she had traded for a simple robe. A courtly retinue for a swarm of rats. She was the very picture of misery. At the window of her cell, gripping the bars, Meve stood powerless, her anger so great she wept and wailed. Her Lyrie was free no more.
Have I come at a bad time?
Demons take you, Caldwell. You've long been at this scheme, haven't you? You left the strays of Sparla to roam the realm, to forage, so that I would have to look to them. And thus gained your cohorts the time they needed to complete Lyrie's sail to Nilfgaard.
You've seen through it all, that's clear. After the fact, of course, but still.
Willem, you turned him. How?
The boy's not fit to wear the crown. Hasn't sufficient wit nor valour. I know this. You know this. Just, he knows it not. Willem fancied himself a statesman. Wished terribly to prove he was one. I made it possible. I've been amply rewarded, I have. Palatine since just yesterday, in fact.
You'll have neither my blessing nor congratulations. Sorry to disappoint you.
I seek neither. I've come for another reason. To bid you adieu. Willem does not seek your death. Does not even fathom it, as you well know. Moreover, his resolve will wilt in time, and he'll wish to free you. So, come the morn, when the young king rides out to pledge fealty afore General Ep Dahi, you shall use your bed linens to hang yourself.
I see. You wish to see me bow afore you, lie prostrate, beg you for mercy, plough yourself with a pike, Caldwell. And you needn't send your thugs. I'll not falter nor hesitate. I'll take my own life.
Adieu, your grace, and use your last evening wisely.
Meve felt a rush of despair, yet bit her lip to mute any weeping. No, she would not give Caldwell the satisfaction. Morning arrived with the sound of footsteps in the corridor. Meve rose from her cot and stood in the center of her cell. She was prepared for anything. Well, nearly anything.
The Duke of Dogs.
Titles seem senseless under the circumstances, don't you think? Let's forgo them. I'm Gascon.
Has Caldwell sent you? To kill me?
No and a no. Actually, you're free. How shall I put this? That cad, Count Caldwell, used yours truly and the strays as bait in a scheme aimed at kicking your shapely backside off your throne. Now, I'm hardly vindictive. First to forgive, in fact. Take your threat to send me to the gallows. Forgotten already. Yet being played for a fool, I cannot abide. So when the strays freed me, I knew what I'd do to spite the Count before I disappeared. I'd free you. That's to say, on one condition. You've got to request it of me, my lady. Courteously.
For my realm I will do this, and much, much more. Even bow afore a brigand. Thus I beg you, Gascon, Duke of Dogs, grant me my freedom.
Ha! Incredible! I've lived to see someone grovel with dignity. The true ruler you've got to be. You are free.
I'm grateful. Now please let me pass. I must get to the city jail at once.
Would you look at this woman? Free her from one prison, she flies off to the next.
They hold Reynard there. And if I've any ally left, anyone who's not betrayed me, it's him. I must get him out.
Hold, my lady. Unarmed? Alone?
Have I any other option?
In a sense. See, they locked a few strays in the city pits, too. Got a common cause, I'd say. Care to join forces?
The Queen took Gascon up on his offer. Then she, Gascon, and the strays snuck through the city to its dungeon. Reynard had not wavered for a moment in his devotion to the Queen. Never the slouch, he had also not lost any time.
I've inquired among the other arrested soldiers. Many are prepared to fight, even die at your side, your grace.
Seems they may yet get their chance. But now we must flee. All of us.
Yet in leaving the jail, the company ran into trouble. When Caldwell's cutthroats had failed to find Meve in her cell waiting for her secret execution, they had informed the Count. He, in turn, dispatched patrols into the streets. The Queen and her cohorts ran into one such unit.
Blast. We shan't outrun them. To arms! Gascon? Bloody hell, where'd he get to?
Your grace, we must make haste. Caldwell's roused the whole city by now.
We'll be reaping black-clad heads. Sod it. Sod it all. My spirit's willing and how, but these damn boots are killing me. Don't like this. There's a time to reap, a time to sow.
Didn't think I'd leave you just like that, did you?
Honestly, I did.
Again and again and again.
Aye.
I thank you, Gascon. You and your men, for your aid.
'Tis nought, my lady. Strays never say no to a proper brawl.
No brawl this was. Sun rising against Mother. Lyrian striking at Lyrian. I fear a blood war's begun.
Come now. The war's ended. Realms lost to Nilfgaard, no army to speak of.
Then I shall assemble a new one. And with it have Caldwell hanged, and drive Nilfgaard back across the Yaruga.
You're mad. How will you find the men? Riding from hamlet to hamlet, speaking from atop a crate.
No, I shall find them at Edern. A favour to call them King Demavend, and I'll sway volunteers to my cause on the way.
Well, you've your first willing warriors already.
How so?
We've nothing left in Lyria. Our hideouts are compromised. Caldwell sure to set a price on our heads, and Nilfgaardians roam the land in numbers. Besides, I'll be right tickled to see proud Queen Meve fighting elbow to elbow with a bandit she'd wish to hang just a half day afore.
Well, it is said my foe is my friend, and I'd be a fool to turn down assistance now, no matter who offers. So be it.
Very high-minded of you, my lady. So, shall we shake on? Nay? Well then, the high road beckons. Well, first we must escape this city with our lives. Follow me.
Lyria was hers no more. Meve now had to flee her capital and realm as quickly as she could. Won't travel the city streets in a gilded carriage. Queen now saw them from a slightly different vantage point.
Is this the only way? Quite certain. The Queen is a common fugitive now, so she'd be better to pinch her nose and whinge not at all. At long last, Meve reached the gate. Yet this she found shut tight, locked and guarded.
God damned!
Easy, your grace. Nothing we can't solve with a quibble full of quarrels.
Those are our men.
They were, Reynard, were.
Gascon's raiders were poised to loose their bolts, but were thwarted when the Queen stepped out in front of them.
What's she? Your Majesty. I've orders to arrest your grace.
Place me in irons then.
Please understand. I've the choice.
Fear not, you'll be rewarded by Caldwell in Nilfgaardian Florence.
The captain's head dropped. His cheeks burned crimson.
Go, your grace. Flee now, but only to return.
Remember this, Gascon. I'm no fugitive. I'm a queen, robbed of her rightful crown. And though I may need to venture to the world's end before I return, I shall have it back.
Having fled Lyria, Queen Meve ventured into Edern, her old friend Reynard and new ally Gascon at her side. The war had bitten into this land too. Still, Meve hoped to sway King Demavend to her cause, and with his aid, to oust the traitors, retake her throne, and drive the Nilfgaardian invader from her realm. Yet to start, she was forced to fight, Scoia'tael no less. Emerging from a wood, Meve's retinue encountered a unit of elven rebels just moments from hanging a handful of prisoners. Among the latter, the Queen spotted a woman, a proud warrior with a striking, thick black braid.
The lass I believe I know.
Well, unless we rush to her rescue, it'll soon be you knew her.
Well said. Lyrians, attack!
Hang the butcher! Below her!
You're there!
She can't breathe, your grace. We must rush to her aid.
Wait, you're serious? Aye.
Admiral and ship.
Free the warrior!
Oh!
The Scoia'tael warriors shocked the Queen with their speed, their cunning, and their cruelty. Yet in the end, the Lyrians prevailed. When the last elf hit the ground, the Queen had her men untie those they'd sought to hang.
1,000 thanks, Your Grace. Heard many tales of your valor. Pleased to see there weren't just flattery and propaganda. I'm...
Black Rayla. Hagar, we saw you there. You command King Demoven's special forces.
That's right. Though not many remain to command.
So I see. How did it come to this?
My liege sent me to wipe out a Scoia'tael band, led by a rat called Eldain. Followed the vermin's tracks for several days. Straight into his trap, turned out.
Hunting elves in the woods. Truly inspired, I must say.
Had no choice. Doing nothing would have brought us surer, swifter doom. The Black Clad have invaded Edirn. Thanks to elven aid. They snap our supply lines, lurk like dogs, prey on vulnerable units and scouts.
You mean to say Nilfgaard's broken your defences?
Aye. Though their march will soon halt, believe me. To advance, they'll have to take Rosberg, a stronghold that's yet to fall once. They'll break against its walls like waves upon the rocks.
While Edirn stands, the north is not yet lost.
I'll convey your Grace's words to the king at the first occasion.
I'd rather hope to convey them myself. I have come to Edirn seeking aid. I wish to ask Demoven for support.
The king is in Rosberg, overseeing siege preparations. I'm heading that way too to report on our skirmish with the Scoia'tael. I might serve as your guide. These lands I know better than any.
Excellent. Guide on. Gods. The entire country up in flames.
Ebdahi warned punishment awaited Edirn. That he would show the land no mercy.
What in God's names did you do to him, Rayla?
Nilfgaard offered us an alliance against the rest of the north, but Demoven declined, in his clipped soldier's speech. They say Ebdahi flew into a rage and swore he'd reduce Edirn to rubble.
The Lyrians arrived at an ancient, half-desiccated beach. Its trunk sat atop a tangle of thick roots, and scraps of paper covered with tiny scribblings fluttered over it from top to bottom. Travellers crowded all around. Barefoot refugees, bony pilgrims, peddlers with armoured escorts, and shifty-eyed men with the haggard look of deserters.
The Wayfarer's Beach,
Rayla said.
Travellers of all sorts swap tales here. Perhaps we can glean something about our enemy's movements.
Or paint the enemy a clear picture of our own.
Gascon interrupted.
Nilfgaardian spies no doubt flock to this tree like flies to particularly pungent dung.
Disregarding matters of status and station, Meve personally asked the travellers for the latest news. They soon transformed from terse to talkative, sharing tales of an elven bandit named Eldain, a Nilfgaardian general called Frighev who murdered an entire village, and a sorceress who cure any ailment for a few coppers. Then a blood-curdling scream put a halt to the gossip. Meve's soldiers had begun to quarrel with the merchant's guards, one of whom now lay dead on the ground, his throat a gaping wound.
The filth besmirched your honour, your grace. Said you took tail and ran from Lyrie like a belted bitch.
The travellers were unmoved by this explanation. They demanded the Lyrian soldier be punished according to Edirn's laws, by chopping off the hand that dealt the fatal blow. Meve walked up to the accused soldier who awaited her verdict with tears in his eyes. She put her hand on his shoulder.
This man defended my honor.
The Queen proclaimed loudly.
For this he deserves not punishment, but praise. And you remember, whoever defames my name shall soon regret it.
Meve's unit marched off to the sound of jeers and curses, but her soldiers held their heads high, proud of their queen. Soon after entering Edirn, Meve ordered a halt. She wished to sit with Black Rayla and plan their onward march, for Rayla knew every path in the realm, including ones not drawn on any map. They were hard at work when shouts rang out among the tents.
One final time I shall say it. As your senior officer, I order you to depart the training grounds, or...
Or what, pray tell? You'll have me drop and give you 50?
What is the meaning of this?
Your Grace, I had thought to use this interval to drill the recruits, teach them...
To walk.
To maneuver, Gascon. A world of difference. In perfect harmony must soldiers traverse the field of battle. Otherwise, they could break formation. The enemy would penetrate our lines, and our army could be slaughtered.
And therein lies the rub, dear Reynard. Army. This is no army, but a band of partisans. If we do not adapt to the rules of desperation, if we adhere instead to the Academy Codex, we shall lose. Laying traps, wiping tracks, that's what we should teach the lads. Not marching to the beat.
All my eye. A fighting force must have discipline. Otherwise, tactics and planning are impossible. A soldier must obey orders.
A point on which we all agree. And since they are mine to give, I order you both to calm yourselves at once, and never air your squabbles in front of the men again. Our resources are limited. We cannot do everything at once. Prepare your proposed plans for training the recruits, and I shall decide which we shall follow. Clear? Then get to work.
Your Grace.
Meve heard Reynard call out from behind her.
The scout's returned. Claims to bear an urgent message.
The Queen halted her horse and waited for the soldier to reach her. He abandoned all formalities and jumped straight to the point.
Milady, a black-clad caravan, armed to the hilt, rides this way. To believe the rumours, they're hauling a load of war loot back south.
Reynard gave the soldier new orders, then turned to Meve.
Sounds like a prime opportunity to replenish our coffers.
Indeed. An opportunity we cannot ignore.
The Queen said.
Your unit will block their path. Gascon and his men will hide in the woods and strike their flanks, while I shut the trap, attacking from behind.
Their plan established, Meve gave the signal to move out. A brief moment later, the fight began.
We must drive them into the ambush! Follow me!
The chase is on!
Wise choice.
Ow!
Order!
We're close, Your Grace.
Sure took your time. Thought you'd forgotten about me. Now!
Go, hop, hop!
The caravan is ours, milady.
Their plan ended in success, the Nilfgaardians crushed. As soon as the dust had settled, Meve tore the canvas off the nearby wagons to see what precious loot they had so carefully guarded. She expected to find gold, jewels, or exquisite silks. Instead, she saw dirty, terrified figures bound in chains.
Slaves,
Reynard muttered.
Their precious cargo. Slaves. Behold the glorious future the Empire brings us.
Meve ordered the prisoners freed and discovered they were Edirnian peasants on their way to dig canals and dredge swamps as forced labourers.
You are free. You can return to your homes,
The Queen said. If she expected words of thanks and gratitude, she was in for a disappointment.
What homes, my lady?
Asked one of the peasants, holding back tears.
Took our land, they did. Nothing we have now. Not a rag to wear, not a crumb to eat. Leave us, we die. Soldiers don't do us in, monsters will. Assuming hunger and cold don't get us first.
The Queen was about to answer when she heard Gascon, standing behind her, whisper,
Before you make any rash promises, please, some maths. Dozens of hungry mouths to feed, and weak bodies to defend, twice as many tired legs to wait for, while war rages all around. You do realise you cannot save everyone.
As you see, my numbers are few.
The Queen began. Hearing her tone, the former slaves knew all hope was lost. Seeing the despair on their faces, Meve's voice wavered for a moment.
And our coffers are bare. I am sorry. We cannot help you.
Meve left food for the peasants freed from the Nilfgaardian wagons. She estimated it would last them 3 or 4 days. After that, they would be a problem that was not the Queen of Lyrie's to solve. As Meve neared Gatburg, her eyes were drawn at once to the black pennants flying over its palisades. Nilfgaard's pennants. Her scouts found the city's buildings intact, its streets unstained by blood. Black-clad soldiers could be seen guarding storehouses holding loot pillaged from nearby settlements. Curiously, these soldiers were very few in number.
The gates stand open. Clearly the Imperials expect no attack, giving us the element of surprise. We can take back the city and
make off with the gold.
Gascon finished. Meve hated Nilfgaard and needed gold to maintain her army. 2 very good reasons to attack Gatburg. Her decision made, she ordered her men to prepare for battle. Now the invaders would have to try their hand at defending.
Larven! Essay to nothing!
They feel at home here, the Nilfgaardians. Let's show them they're wrong.
You'll never take me alive!
101, 102, 103.
Oh.
152, 154.
No signs of fighting! These Horsens must have opened the gates for the Blacklads.
This could hurt.
Ah. Wise choice.
Watch your heads!
Order!
Brach! Scheiß in Trey!
The battle's won, Your Majesty.
The Battle of Gatburg ended in Meve's victory, much to its inhabitants' displeasure. While she examined the Nilfgaardian storehouses, the city's mayor, an elderly gentleman with a walrus moustache, requested a private audience.
Your Grace, I am old. Kill me, you'll merely save my gout the trouble, so I'll be frank. You've but few men. You'll not spare a one to defend the city. When you ride off, the Imperials will retake Gatburg, peer into their looted storehouses, and seek revenge. You will be far off, while we shall be oh so terribly near.
The old man creaked down onto his knees and gripped the hem of the Queen's coat with knobby fingers.
Your Majesty, I beg you, leave the gold, or the streets of Gatburg will flow with the blood of our women and children.
Meve contemplated what to make of the fellow. Should he be praised for his forethought and concern for his townsmen, or condemned for cowardice and insolence? Black Rayla, however, had no such doubts.
Traitors all. Small wonder the town's untouched. Must have opened the gates wide for the southern scum. Now they want us to let them fill their pockets with plundered gold.
After a moment's hesitation, Meve had her soldiers load the stolen gold onto their wagons.
As you pointed out, Mayor, my army is small, which is why I need gold to expand it.
The mayor said nothing. He bowed to the Queen, then hobbled off, leaning heavily on his cane, as if this short exchange had cost him years of life.
Was here just a week past. That was a mill, an inn, Out more than ashes now.
And of the people, not a trace. Not even the bodies. Look to the high road. The earth furrowed by wheels, hooves. The Blacklads went at Rosberg with all their strength. An ominous sign.
For Nilfgaard, I'd say. The fortress boasts 2 new towers, a deeper moat, gate of wrought iron. It cannot be taken. What happened here?
Sadly, it was Rayla who met with surprise. 100-yard gap gaped in the unbreachable walls of Rosberg. The fortress itself was aflame, spewing black smoke into the sky.
I don't... How? It can't be!
There was no time to consider her question, for Nilfgaardian scouts had spotted Meve's company. The Queen knew battle was inevitable, so she gave the signal to form a defensive line, then drew her blade.
Your Grace, Nilfgaardian fighters remain in the city.
Watch your heads!
Yo.
Of course, as you wish, Master.
Ever have a stone knock out one of your teeth?
Catch!
No time for that!
Watch for Demoven's banners! If he's here, we must find him!
The Lyrians met one note of luck in this song of woe. Rosberg had fallen, yes, but the Nilfgaardians, not expecting reinforcements from the south, had stationed only a small detachment to hold it. Meve led her men to victory and retook the fortress. Or rather, what was left of it. What they did not demolish during their assault, the Nilfgaardians burnt once inside the city. Countless charred corpses of both defenders and peasants seeking shelter from the invaders lay among the blackened ruins. Some had tried to shield their children from the fire with their own bodies. To no avail.
Gods be damned!
The Queen cried, pounding her fist against the wall. Meve was about to give the order to move on when she caught a stifled whimper coming from a pile of rubble. Her soldiers ran to the rescue, their bare hands digging through the fiery bricks.
Here! He's alive!
The man they pulled from the ruins had suffered horrible burns. His face was a stew of seared flesh and pus-filled boils, and he reeked of burnt meat. Seeing Black Rayla, the poor soul staggered to his feet and lifted a shaking hand in salute.
Engineer Lieutenant Xavier Lemons, reporting for duty.
Medic! Send for a medic!
Lemons! What the devil's happened?
I know not. The East Tower. I led the defense. Heating oil to tan Nilfgaardian hides. A catapult struck. The cauldron tipped. Burst into flames. The rest, I cannot say.
The fortress fell.
Fell? Damned Scoia'tael.
What was that?
Our preparations were perfect. A month, 2 we could have lasted, but traitors were among us. Elves, dwarves planted charges on the buttresses. An explosion shook the tower, a hole gaped in the wall. Our men threw themselves in, filling the breach.
Vermin, filthy, rotten vermin.
I know you suffer, soldier, but Queen Meve wishes to meet with your sovereign, Demavend. We must know what's become of him.
Gone, luckily. He oversaw the preparations, then returned to Aldersburg 3 days past.
Then let us do the same. Reynard, prepare our departure.
Hold your grace. Did anyone survive? Anyone at all?
The Nilfgaardians might have taken prisoners. There's hope.
How could they? An entire detachment? An entire city? The animals.
Soldier, my medics will tend to you as best they can. Then we can escort you home if...
This is my home, your grace. Rosberg. I beg you, let me join your company. Let me exact revenge.
I respect your fighting spirit, good man. But in your state...
Your grace, I can hold neither shield nor sword, but I can still fight in my own way. I'm an engineer. I build siege towers, ballistae, bridges, whatever you wish. I pray, grant me a chance.
Such pain, such ferocity resounded in Xavier's rasping, distorted voice that Meve could not refuse his plea. Once the medics had bandaged his wounds, Meve's men set out towards Aldersburg, following Demavend and the Nilfgaardians. At one point in their journey, Black Rayla rode up next to Meve. The warrior's lips were a thin line, bitten to blood.
Milady, the road to Aldersburg leads through Moulderwood, where Eldane's Scoia'tael prowl. Same filth who killed my men and delivered Rosberg to the Black Butchers.
Rayla breathed deeply to steady her furious, shaking voice.
Please, milady, I ask you upon the holies, let us find them and destroy them.
Meve gave a slight nod. It seemed the road to Aldersburg would prove long and full of challenges.
A pity Willem is not with us. Were he to see what lies before our eyes, caught a whiff of the burnt bodies, perhaps he would see with whom he now consorts, whom he allowed in our home with nary a fight.
If it be your majesty's wish, I shall send a rider to the prince with her.
I wish nothing of the sort. I will not correspond with the enemy.
Not liking the looks of this,
Gascon said, furrowing his brow. Meve followed his gaze. Before them, beside the road, stood a hut with a scorched thatch roof.
Why?
Hut's abandoned, yet dried fruit and mushrooms hang from the eaves. Famine raging all around and no one's been tempted. I'd send a scout if I were you.
The Queen did as Gascon suggested, and sent 3 infantrymen to reconnoiter. They entered the hut and found only silence that was soon broken by a blood-curdling growl. The soldiers ran out at full speed, tripping over their own legs. Meve drew her sword, convinced a horde of neckers or ghouls would soon attack. But her fears proved unfounded. Instead of monsters, out of the hut came a shaggy dog, a torn scrap of fabric clutched in its teeth.
Milady!
One of the soldiers began, his face red with embarrassment, and his hands covering a hole in his breeches.
Was dark as a well inside, and that hound, it jumped out at us all of a sudden, biting it and snapping.
Bad boy,
Gascon said with a smile, then pulled a hunk of dried sausage from his bag. Bought by this generous offering, the dog calmed down at once. Further examination showed the dog was the hut's only resident. Like many others in Aedirn, its owners had disappeared without a trace. Their loyal mutt still guarded the premises, waiting for his master's return.
Let's take him with us,
Gascon said.
Otherwise, he'll die here, of his own hunger or someone else's.
A watchful sentry like this could prove useful in our camp,
said the Queen.
Fine, he can join. But he shall need a name.
How about Reynard?
Proposed Gascon, a cheeky grin smeared across his face.
That way, he'll come when you call, sit on command, and always be a heel. Always heel, that is.
Watch your words,
said Reynard, hand tightly gripping the hilt of his sword.
Or you'll learn I'm not at all as tame as you believe.
Enough, both of you. That's an order. As for you...
The Queen took a good look at the dog, who still had a scrap of fabric in his teeth.
Since it seems you've a taste for the cloth of the nether regions, I dub you... Knickers. Will that do?
The dog wagged its tail vigorously, as if thoroughly pleased with its new name. Meve's company marched off, a furry new recruit richer. Meve and her companions neared the Moulderwood, a dense, ancient forest of trees whose tangled branches had witnessed the conjunction of the spheres. It was not until King Vidamont's day that a road was finally carved through the primeval thicket, significantly shortening the journey from Rossburg to Aldersburg.
Even when peace reigns, danger rules this road.
Rayla said.
Now no one dares travel it.
At the edge of the wood by the road stood an enormous willow. Its branches swept down to cover its trunk, looking for all the world like long tresses shrouding a woman's face. Meve had an ill premonition. She did not like the sickly sweet aroma wafting from this tree, nor the metallic buzzing of insect wings. She sent a scout to investigate. He drew aside the drooping branches and stumbled back. There were men bound to the tree, covered in sap oozing from gashes in its trunk. Its heavy scent had attracted swarms of insects, flies, wasps, bees and beetles. They seethed over the bound men, crawling in and out of their ears and nostrils.
Eldain welcomes us to his wood,
Rayla whispered. Meve stepped towards the tree and saw the men stuck to it were all still alive. Those the elves had caught recently writhed and howled for rescue. Those hanging longer merely followed the Queen with half-crazed, bloodshot eyes.
Well, are you to stand there all day?
Meve screamed to her dumbstruck Lyrians.
Free them, at once!
Her soldiers needed no more prompting and set about sawing at the ropes with their blades. As soon as they had freed the first captive, before even a word of thanks could be uttered, a flaming streak soared through the air and stuck in the tree. The oozing resin burst into flames, engulfing the prisoners as well as the soldiers who had come to their aid. Elder speech battle cries rang out from the woods as elven warriors launched their attack.
Nilkampsia!
It's a trap!
Cried Reynard.
Defend the Queen!
Keep your heads in the fight! They'll seek to blind us with shock and awe!
Catch!
Nay, Dwan they camest.
I shall not fail!
Kill them! Kill them all!
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
None shall tread on us!
Regroup! Finish off the wounded!
The battle done, Meve surveyed the carnage, her breath still ragged. The thick stench of blood, sap, and ash she sucked in made her stomach churn and head swoon.
The Scoia'tael. I'd heard of their cruelty, but...
The Queen said, sheathing her sword.
But never have I countenanced a thing like this.
Black Rayla, who had just extracted her blade from between an elven gorilla's ribs, smiled darkly.
Worst is yet to come, my lady.
The Queen regrouped her forces and marched into the Moulderwood. The Lyrians sang none of their usual marching songs. Instead, they walked in silence, eyes darting constantly to their flanks.
Hear that? Nightingales. Unmindful of war, they sing on.
Those are no birds, my lady. Just Scoia'tael scat.
Meve was riding at the head of the caravan when Black Rayla rode up and leaned towards her. She spoke in a whisper, a hand shielding her mouth.
Your Grace, I've something important to tell you. Yet you can't show anything's amiss. Look straight ahead. Make no sudden moves.
Meve nodded slightly and waited for her to continue.
Scoia'tael scouts in the woods, watching us. Eldain's near here somewhere, preparing his attack.
So what do you propose?
Asked the Queen, her gaze fixed on the road ahead.
Let him catch us out in the open. We're sitting ducks. But there are ruins nearby, an elven cemetery. We can find cover behind its walls.
Meve was accustomed to discussing important decisions with all her advisors, but she knew there was no time for consultation now. She had to trust Black Rayla's advice, and so without further delay issued the appropriate orders. Meve's retinue reached the cemetery before dusk. Her soldiers knocked down the marble statuary and piled them into barricades, while scouts took up positions outside the walls to watch for the foe's approach. When the sun set, the woods exhaled the heat of the day, and a thick fog soon arose. Out of the mist stepped Reynard's scouts, bound and pushed forward by elves. One of the Scoia'tael, a sturdy elf with long hair, stood by the cemetery wall and cried,
I am Eldain. I would speak to Meve.
I am she. Speak.
Cadmil en Kedva Genvid Rena. This place is of great import to us, the Enshe. I would tell you of its monuments, of the weeping Ensevern, carved by 3 generations of sculptors, or of the alabaster relief of King Kellad, so beautiful even the birds would gather to admire it. But I see your men have found our memorials, and in the way of Dwan, destroyed them without a second thought. I cannot say this comes as a surprise. You've already shown the gods molded you from the basest of matter. You murdered injured soldiers who no longer posed you any threat.
Get to the point, Eldain.
So I shall. As you certainly know, the necropolis is surrounded. Soon there shall be a battle. But it is unseemly to fight in a cemetery. So I ask you to come out into the open.
And surrender our tactical advantage.
I suspected a matter so impractical as respecting the dead would mean nothing to you, Dwan. So I submit one more argument. The lives of the soldiers you sent to spy. If you leave the cemetery, I shall set them free. They will fight at your side. If not, I shall kill them, here and now.
Milady, don't listen to him. He can't be trusted.
Rayla, those are good men. Fabian, Gerrit, Matthias, they've served me for a decade. They'd crawl through 7 hells for their queen. They do not deserve such a death.
I accept your conditions.
Your Grace, I beg you.
Soldiers! We march into the field!
Eldain clasped his hands in thanks. Then, in a swift, almost careless movement, slit the throat of the scout standing nearest him.
You should have listened to Rayla, Your Grace. We elves truly can't.
I warned you. Now we've lost the advantage.
I'm sorry, Your Grace. I take full responsibility.
There's a time to reap, a time to sow.
Yeah, yeah!
Show me the coin or sod off.
And just when you thought things were about to get dull.
Your folk were dead the moment they fell into Eldane's hands.
After a long, bloody battle, Eldane's unit was destroyed, and Eldane himself sat at Meve's feet, defeated and dying.
To die in a cemetery. Something amusing in it, wouldn't you say?
I am surprised you are in the mood for humour.
All my tears I shed years ago. My family, killed in a massacre aimed at eradicating our race. Senseless. Utterly senseless. Reyna, we have lost. Me, my Scoia'tael, Ian Shay. We shall vanish from this earth. Your grandchildren will know us in fairy tales only. I know I deceived you, but lay my bones to rest in a grave. Let me part this world with dignity. Ager Dregared.
Oh, please! How dare he? Look, he laughs, Your Grace! This dog should rot in an open field. Need I mention the willow? The men he strung from it? The men he burned alive?
Mercy you don't deserve, Eldane. I shall leave you where you lie, where rats will gnaw at your bones.
In your boots, I would do the same. Vasse derad, ep again.
Meve gave the order to march that very night, not waiting for the day to break. She wished to leave behind as soon as possible the moulderwood and the rotting elven remains littering Kedva Genvid Cemetery. Black Rayla rode at the head of the caravan to the Queen's right, a satisfied smile playing on her lips.
Oh, at last. I'd begun to think this wood had no end.
And I thought bandits knew their way round a wood.
We do. Around those not brimming with elves armed to teeth.
Meve's mount reared and flattened its ears, spooked for no visible cause. Trusting in animal instinct, Meve jumped to the ground and felt tremors under her boots. At first they were faint, barely palpable, then grew stronger and stronger.
What's going on?
Meve cried.
Why does the earth tremble?
Before anyone could respond, a scout from the forward guard let out a terrified cry. A moment later, snapped trees crashed down around them, and out of the woods came a 30-foot-tall stone giant.
Gods,
whispered the Queen.
What is that? A golem.
Isbel whispered back.
Favorite servant of Nilfgaardian mages.
As if to confirm his words, soldiers marched out from behind the giant, clad in heavy black plate. Their leader, however, wore but a light tunic, and his hands glowed with a strange blue light.
Dithen Quan and Lyrien!
He shouted, giving the order to attack.
Gloire and Ard Feyin!
The chase is on!
My powers are yours.
Mom, break the mage's spell, and the golem's power will wane to naught.
Raising her shield against the whistling rain of arrows, Meve fought her way towards the Nilfgaardian mage leading the attack. At close quarters, magic arcana would stand no chance against a well-swung blade. Meve roared, delivering a powerful blow. Her blade severed the mage's aorta, and drowning in his own blood, he fell to the ground. He choked out by way of last words. Then the blue aura coming from his hands flickered out, and the stone giant thundered to the ground in pieces. When the dust of the battle had settled, the Queen ordered her men to search the Nilfgaardian camp. In the mage's tent, they found a rare instrument used to communicate at a distance, a megascope. The crystals encrusted in its brass frame were still warm, meaning it had recently been used to conduct a conversation. The burning question was, with whom?
Isbel!
Yelled the Queen. The mage dutifully came closer.
This device. Could you activate it?
Yes, Your Grace. But are you sure?
I am. Get to work.
Isbel nodded, then began calibrating the magic device. Finally, something clicked. A light flickered on, and before Meve's eyes appeared the outline of a Nilfgaardian general.
Speak common, please. I know not your tongue.
Oh, forgive me. I thought I spoke to someone else. Good to see you in good health, Queen. Or ex-Queen, I suppose, would be the more apt title.
Instead of fretting so much over my title, give yours.
Of course. Where are my manners? Duke Adel Ebdahi, Grand Chancellor, Commander of Army Group East. I believe you've heard of me.
No. This is the first time I hear the name Adel. Adel what?
I see you've a poor mind for names. Perhaps you should ask your son. He knows me very well.
You whoreson.
Oh, what was I thinking? You're not on good terms, are you? Such a sad story. But don't worry, it'll soon be over.
Is that a threat?
No. A simple prediction. Enough of this. Why use this megascope? What is it you want?
I wanted to see the man who's butchering Edirn. The man responsible for the deaths of thousands of women, elders and children.
Then your desire has been satisfied. It was I who gave the order to cleanse this land of unwanted elements, to prepare it for settlement.
Unwanted elements? Those are living folk you speak of.
If you were to look at this war in historical perspective, considering the wider geopolitical context, forget it. It's impossible for you to grasp. Farewell, Your Majesty. Or rather, till next time. For there will be a next time, I assure you.
A quiet fell over the tent. The Queen stepped outside, squinted her eyes against the glare of the burning fields, and swore to herself that when she did see Grand Chancellor Adel Ebdahi again, he would be a whole head shorter.
All destroyed. As if nobody lifted a finger against the Nilfgaardians.
King surely ordered all his armies to return to Aldersburg. Took cover behind its walls.
I do not wish to dismay, but after what we saw at Rossburg...
Enough doomsaying, Gascon.
Coming across a small brook, Meve ordered her soldiers to replenish their water supplies. When they returned, it was with empty water skins and troubled expressions.
Milady, the water tastes of blood. Not like black pudding, mind, but rancid, filthy.
Meve had no choice but to march on. She gulped dryly and wondered how to interpret this strange event. An omen, perhaps? A warning from the gods? She soon learned the truth. Following the brook upstream, the Lyrians arrived at a small pool. Bobbing on its surface were dozens of corpses. A young woman caught Meve's gaze, her long hair spread delicately atop the water, wide-open eyes reflecting the sky, a fine nose peppered with freckles, and a gaping wound slashed across her throat.
We shall stop here,
the Queen said calmly,
and give these souls a proper burial. Reynard, send scouts. Tell them they are not to return until they ascertain what has happened here.
When the scouts returned a while later, they brought with them a barefooted peasant they'd found hiding in the woods. They claimed he hailed from Horton, a nearby village, the village whose inhabitants had been murdered.
Them black-clad wretches stormed the village, milady. The devil Friggev at the fore. Rounded us right up, took us down to the lake. Whole village, mind. They'd chop, chop, and splosh, splosh. It was I alone gave him the slip.
Meve listened to the man's tale, then placed him in the care of her medics and ordered the Lyrians to break camp. She rode at the head of their column, Reynard at her side, her knuckles gripped white on the reins.
Do we know where this Friggev is stationed?
Our riders report he's pitched camp to the east.
Then let's pay him a call.
They killed all, like Rosberg. My lady, please, make them pay.
The Lyrians had no trouble finding Friggev's camp. It was the size of a sprawling town. Meve stopped her caravan and called for a council. The first to speak was Reynard.
Seems our scouts were both right and wrong, Your Grace. They did pinpoint General Friggev, the Butcher of Horton. Unfortunately, they underestimated his detachment. It is much larger and better armed than our own.
That changes nothing,
Meve said, forestalling all protest.
If I leave him unpunished, without so much as an attempt, I shall never be able to face my reflection again. We must attack.
Reynard bowed and passed the order to the Lyrians. Later that same day, Meve and Friggev's forces stood face to face on the field of battle.
Come out, Friggev! It's time you pay for your crimes!
Mercy, I will.
There! Friggev! I see him! We've got to catch him!
Yeah, yeah!
Wise choice.
Watch your heads!
The Lyrians won the day, despite their foes' distinct advantage. Historians later ascribed Meve's victory to her light troops' superior maneuverability in the difficult terrain compared to the plate-clad Nilfgaardians. But if you ask me, that wasn't it at all. A storm of fury had been quietly gathering in the Lyrians' hearts, a squall of rage stoked by the Nilfgaardians' unparalleled cruelty towards the conquered. And no one embodied this barbarism more perfectly than General Friggev. Meve's men were ready to sacrifice anything to see him punished. They dragged the defeated general before Meve. The Queen wished to learn why he'd ordered the execution of an entire village, how the Nilfgaardians could possibly justify such a crime.
2 weeks prior, I'd sent a detachment to Horton to procure feed. Captain Gaynor commanded it. While he was verifying their grain stores, they barricaded him in the barn.
and put it to flame.
The Queen listened to the general's story, her face a mask, betraying nothing.
Murdered. One man was murdered.
Frigga raised his eyes to Meve's. The Queen was surprised to see them wet with tears.
Yes, my lady. My son.
The general's simple words bore pain, grief, and a thirst for revenge that would never be slaked. The Queen had to decide what to do with Frigga. No doubt the general had earned punishment, the harshest possible at that. Yet, such a weighty personage could fetch a hefty ransom, and Meve's army desperately needed the gold. In the end, the Queen decided to return the general for a golden ransom. Whether she chose the path out of mercy, moved by the Nilfgaardian's tears, or out of pure material calculation, sensing an excellent chance to replenish her war chest, it is hard to say. One thing is certain. Her men were crestfallen at the news. They had challenged Friggif's greatly superior forces in the name of justice, not gold. The Lyrians stood within 5 miles of Aldersburg, when the road, which until now they had travelled alone, suddenly filled with all manner of folk. Peasants, merchants, and wounded fighters in tattered uniforms. They trod solemnly in the opposite direction, their worldly possessions on their backs.
Aldersburg's fallen, my lady,
sighed one of the refugees with a forlorn shrug.
Outer walls breached. King still defends the old town, but black-clad goats are winning. You'd best turn back before it's too late.
We've nowhere to turn to, good man,
the Queen said, then spurred on her horse.
Follow me!
The Queen galloped so fast the wind squeezed tears from her eyes, the Lyrian cavalry close at her heels. Hoofbeats thundered down the high road, and the crowd of refugees parted, making a path for the charging riders.
Faster! Faster!
Soon they set eye on Aldersburg. A red glow filled the horizon, the wind carried screams and the clanking of steel. The once proud city was quickly turning to dust in the Nilfgaardian sun. The Nilfgaardian force moved to block the Lyrians' way. Without slowing, Meve cut down the infantryman who tried to drag her from her saddle with a hook. Her head in a winged helmet fell to the ground, leaving a bloody track.
Lyrians! Attack!
Meve shouted.
Take no prisoners! Bloody hell! You shan't stop me. Not now!
Enough chit-chat. Draw your weapon.
Order!
My boots got sand aplenty in them.
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
Erigua. Gloire en Kazer!
Your Grace, all that was but their rear guard.
The Lyrians managed to scatter the Nilfgaardian battalion, one of many besieging Aldersburg. Their scouts brought before the Queen a prisoner freed from the invaders. Meve inquired about the situation in the city.
Turned the right slaughterhouse it has. The Imperials, they... King had the city cleared, my lady, but didn't budge himself. Holding out with his guard in Old Town, walls still standing there. Said he'd fight to the end, come what may.
Meve weighed her options. The situation looked dire. Demavend, to whom she had come for help, needed help himself. Nilfgaard enjoyed an overwhelming advantage. The small Lyrian detachment stood no chance of breaking the siege. But to retreat, surrender, that was not something Meve did.
The Nilfgaardians do not expect a relief force. Rayla, you know Aldersburg. Can you lead us by side streets to the Old Town, that we may avoid the largest part of the Nilfgaardian army?
The warrior nodded, and without waiting for any further orders, strode out in front of the party. Reynard followed her with his gaze, clearly troubled.
And what then, Your Majesty? We burst into the lion's den and...
And we pray the lion chokes. Follow me!
Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelled of the elderberries.
Taking advantage of the confusion, Meve maneuvered her troops to the very walls of the Old Town. Spying Lyrian banners, the defenders suspected a trap. But when they noticed Black Rayla among them, they immediately lowered the drawbridge. The Old Town was a maze of brothels and shady taverns. In normal times, students and other pleasure seekers prowled its dark alleys. Now, tired soldiers slumped in every corner, though the Lyrians' arrival clearly buoyed their spirits. The Fraternal Realm's warriors clasped each other's hands and swapped tales. Even Edirn's king, Demavend, made no secret of his pleasure at seeing these unexpected arrivals.
Meve, of all the besieged cities in all the world, you walk into mine. Come to the rescue, have you?
To be quite frank, I've come to be rescued.
Oh, yes. I've heard much of the events in Lyria. Disgraceful. Such betrayal. However, as you might have noticed, things are none too rosy here either.
Yes, that is hard to miss.
I thought we'd trade blows with the Blackclads. That it would be an even match. 2 weeks. That sufficed to annihilate the army I'd spent my whole lifetime building.
Your Majesty, I cannot say what fate will bring, if we shall reach this war's end alive. But I wish to say now that I admire you.
Oh?
You evacuated the city, yet refused to evacuate yourself. You fight to the bitter end, like a hero.
But of course, the king must lead by example after all. Especially in war.
Reynard, that rumbling, you hear it? Studded boots on cobblestones. The Nilfgaardians. Prepare the men for battle.
Yes, Your Grace.
So, now that we're alone, what's really going on?
What? Did you not hear? I'm defending my capital, like a hero.
Demavend, please, don't feed me that drivel. We've known each other far too long. Why did you stay?
Meve. As meddling as you are beautiful. See that building? That one there.
The... brothel? The Crimson Bodice?
Precisely. So, promise not to laugh. I'm a patron. A loyal one, in fact. One of the girls there, Demeretta. She's marvelous. Makes me feel young again.
A young fool, you mean? Demavend, there's a war on, and...
Allow me to finish. Demeretta became, well, with child. Exactly 9 months ago. Understand now?
She's entered confinement. Having contractions.
Since yesterday. You see, I cannot leave her like this. Can't have her moved. I must stay put until she gives birth.
And then what? Pray tell. Invite all of Nilfgaard to the christening?
No, my dear. There is a hidden tunnel deep beneath the city, leading far beyond its walls. Once the midwives cut the cord, we flee.
I understand. For one's child, one would do anything.
Odd, isn't it? Amusing, even. Midst of a war, my kingdom burning all around. And I'm happy.
In that case, I can only hope your offspring, unlike mine, will continue to.
Your Majesties, the Nilfgaardians are attacking.
Meve, we must hold out. A few hours, that's all.
I'll do what I can.
Defend the king! We must stop them!
Aye.
Ja, ja!
Inarin Jalde Kronfair.
Catch!
I want their heads! Anvallen in order!
You'll never take me alive!
Meve! They're getting close! Devils take all, help me!
Barbarians.
Quick and painful this'll be.
Aye.
Alba! No! Ashes!
It worked! Now retreat to the tunnel!
With their forces combined, the rulers managed to hold the old town long enough for Demereta to bear the king's offspring, a healthy, hardy boy. When the midwife slapped the infant, his scream carried above the roar of battle. Soon afterwards, the defenders abandoned the walls and left the city through a secret tunnel. The Nilfgaardians, furious that not one but two northern sovereigns were among the escapees, razed Aldersburg to the ground.
Thank you. If not for you, the devils would have devoured us.
I should say it was nothing. But the truth is, I need your aid.
Aid? But you see, my army is no more. I must pull back, regroup.
Pull back? Where to? The golden sun flies over your entire realm.
To Redania, to take shelter at the court there.
And then? Will you sit and watch the fool juggle apples as Nilfgaard parcels all Edirn out to its settlers?
Meve, one must know when to fold and when to double down. Nilfgaard has stretched the front. Winter will soon be here. Let the costs claw away at them. A year, two, then we strike. And we shall prove the Empire is a colossus with feet of clay.
Fine. Do as you see fit.
And you?
I can't live like that.
So what shall you do instead?
Fight on. Until I win. Or the black-clad curs tear me apart.
Gods, such pity I have for your husband. The poor man must have had a rough go of it.
He seemed content with his life while it lasted. Yet I'm serious, Demavend, in my request. You truly won't aid me. Provide nothing at all.
I will tell my men whoever so wishes can join your party and fight on. But please, curb your excitement. They are tired. Few will choose the path of greater resistance. But, are you familiar with the saying, when at wit's end, a dwarf's your friend?
Yes, it and many others. Yet as much as I appreciate folk wisdom, I prefer facts to philosophy at the moment. Preferably facts relevant to my situation.
How about this? Mahakam is but a week's ride from here. And there you'll find thousands of dwarves armed to the teeth. Enough to turn the tides of this war, I venture.
Yes, they could. If not for another fact. That the dwarves have always been famously indifferent to strife between humans. They'll never come to my aid. I doubt they'll even let me into their land.
Unless you show them this. The leaden ring. A token of amity given to me by the Elder-in-Chief. That's not to say they'll welcome you with open arms, but they will hear you out. And that is something.
Dwarven infantry I'd make good use of. I shall do as you say. Or at least try.
Good. And to ease your journey somewhat, I'll give you as your guide the best man, or rather woman, for the task. Rayla!
Yes, Your Grace?
You've been to Mahakam with me many times. You know their paths. Take Queen Meve and her party there.
'Twould be an honor, Your Majesty.
I'll send messengers ahead that the dwarfs may expect your arrival. Until then, good luck, Meve. And may we one day waltz upon the grave of our foe, Emperor Emir.
May it be so. Just as long as I get to lead.
Ah, of course. Farewell, Queen.
Meve left Aldersburg in ill spirits. Rather than provide the help she had hoped for, Demavend had merely sent her on to Mahakam. Her way west was lit first by the glow of a burning city, then by the smouldering remains of charred villages by the roadside. It was clear the war against Nilfgaard had taken a bitter turn. Each stranger was now treated as an enemy, and the customarily hospitable Aedirnians slammed their doors at anyone's approach. The party's morale was somber as well, and did not even improve with the first sight of mountains looming in the distance. Wandering among the ashes, Meve entered the dwarves' domain.